Hello, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is John. I talk about books. So I'm going to talk about some books today, maybe a little channel stuff. Usually don't talk about channel stuff, but there are a few things on my mind today. We got a lot of ground to cover, so I don't know how deeply I'm going to be able to go into any of these books. Uh, this goes all the way back until the 1st of January in that area. Um, anyway, we'll just get started. So the first book I finished was Rick Hautala's Bedbugs. It's a collection of short stories that Rick Hautala wrote, and from what I understand, he is no longer with us. Uh, Now, I finished this about 3 weeks ago, something like that, and I have to be completely honest here and say that I don't remember these stories particularly well because I was not that impressed by them. There is one story in particular that really did impress me that I really enjoyed, that stood out leaps and bounds above the other stories in this book, and that was about a man who has a twin brother. They are both artists, and while they are both pretty good at what they do, one brother is much, much better than the other and gains worldwide fame, recognition, wealth, a loving family, all kinds of fawning attention from the art world and commissions and that sort of thing. And the other brother is successful, but not anywhere near the same degree. And this has gone on throughout their entire lives since they were little kids. And the other brother has always received more recognition for everything that he does. And the lesser of the two, so to speak, he becomes absolutely convinced in his mind that his older brother, all of his artistic power is in his hands. And he becomes convinced that if he takes his brother's hands, he will be able to take his brother's artistic power and gain all the recognition and money and fame and everything, the loving, fawning, suck ups and all that sort of stuff. And I want to look up the name of that story really fast here because it was one of the earlier ones. It was called The Back of My Hands. And so he goes and he shoots his brother and he cuts off his hands and he turns his brother's skin into a pair of gloves and he wears them over his own hands. And he does indeed gain incredible artistic powers. But the hands are not particularly happy about being used in this way. And either he starts to go insane or the hands really do have their own power and start to fight back. And I thought that was pretty good. It was kind of gruesome, as you may imagine. And there was quite a bit of gruesome stuff in this book, come to think of it. But one of the reasons I wasn't really impressed by the stories was that they were rather predictable. They oftentimes telegraphed very well, or very, very strongly where they were going. And so I could read a page or two and think, I know exactly where this is going. And I almost always did know where it was going. For instance, there's a story about a young woman who is sitting on a bench talking to her friend. She is very scared for some reason. And she starts to recount the story about how she went to a restaurant and her husband joined her at the restaurant. And then all sorts of other people started to come into the restaurant and they are all vaguely familiar. And of course, they're all dead. And the reason that she is sitting on this park bench afraid is because her friend is also dead. And that is telegraphed very, very heavily. There was one that I think it was supposed to be funny. It was about a bunch of hunters who go to a diner in Maine every fall. And they have this special stew that the cook fixes. And he only fixes it this one time of year, right? And they all think that he's a wimp and a weakling because he doesn't hunt, and we are, we and the hunters are given all these clues because one of them has gone missing the night before and never came home. And well, one guy is eating his chili and he finds a tooth. He thinks it's his tooth. It's not his tooth. He spits it on the counter, and then they all kind of look around at each other, And then another one, the guy whose father has went missing, he there's a ring in my chili. My God, it's my father's ring, and they all just kind of stare at each other. And I think that's why it was supposed to be not funny exactly, but I think the idea there was that if they acknowledged what the cook had done, what he had been doing every year for many years, while they had been ragging him about hunting, uh, the idea is that he is the hunter and he is the hunter of the more dangerous game, but also that if they admit that they see what they see, they will realize they will have to confront their own cannibalism and what they have been eating, even as the story is progressing. Um, they were entertaining stories, but they were not written particularly well, not written to an impressive degree or anything like that, but they were fun. I have found, I bought a lot of these leisure horror books. I used to see these a lot when I was a kid, and I have been returning to them, and I think I realized why leisure horror went out of business. It's because a lot of these books are really, really bad. Like, really bad. Like, I don't know if they were even edited bad. And they're kind of, they're not written well. The dialogue tends to be pretty bad. The plot tends to be pretty cliched and to go where you think they're going. And sometimes all of those elements together, I just wonder how the books got published at all. It's not true of all of them. There was a book by Stephen Laws, and I don't remember the name of it. It was about these like big cats, panthers that are living in Britain, and this man's quest to capture one of these panthers and prove that they are real. That was actually a very good book. But he also wrote a book called Ghost Train, and it was very good also, but it was not published by Leisure Horror. It was, I don't even remember who published it. It was a much older book. And so he came to the game already well ensconced in writing, whereas a lot of the authors that Leisure Horror were publishing were newer authors, younger authors, and it really does show in a lot of their books. But anyway, that's me going off on a tangent, I suppose. So the next book is one that I really enjoyed. It's David Morrell's Creepers. And David Morrell, of course, wrote First Blood, which was turned into the Rambo movie. And he's written a lot of other books after that. I'm going to have a little bit of trouble explaining to you the plot of this book without giving any spoilers, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to give a few things away. So if you've been planning to read Creepers, maybe just skip this. But I think it would still be worth reading anyway. Because this book is really about the journey. It's really kind of predictable in where it goes, but it's written in a very engaging way, and I really enjoyed this book. So when I bought this book, actually, the cashier was really excited to see it, and he was like, "Ah, that's a great book. I read it every year. It's really well done." And I really didn't know what to say because I've been buying books for many, many years and received very, very few endorsements of the books that I'm buying. And I didn't want to be like, "Hey, thanks, man." I did say thank you, and I'll keep that in mind. And I don't even remember what I said. It's been like a month and a half ago. But I tried not to be like, "Oh no," because a lot of times when people recommend books to me, I feel bad because I wind up not enjoying them. And then when I see them the next time, I don't know how to admit that I didn't enjoy the book. But anyway, so what this is about is the title is Creepers, and this refers to people who they do urban exploration, and they go into buildings that have been locked up, abandoned buildings, all kinds of different buildings, hospitals, prisons, and they find ways to get into these buildings without damaging the building. They don't break and enter when they can help it. Uh, they don't take anything. They don't destroy anything. They don't damage anything. They just go in. They look around. They document what they see, take pictures, take video, and put it on the internet. In this book, there is a hotel that was, I think it was in Atlantic City. It's somewhere in New Jersey. I finished this almost a month ago now, so bear with me. And a college professor who has been leading a group of creepers. There are, let's see, the professor, there is a married couple, and then there is another guy who is, of course, smitten with the wife of the other man. And they were all students together. They're not in college anymore, but they have kept this group tight together, and they've gone all over the country getting into these buildings. And in this case, they're going to get into this hotel that is in the shape of a giant pyramid, like a giant Mayan pyramid that was built by a hemophiliac billionaire, or, well, I don't know if he was a billionaire, but he was very, very rich around the turn of the century, 1900, 1910, somewhere in there. I guess it was later than that. I guess it would have been in the 1920s. But he was kept all his life until he was an adult. He was kept hidden away from everyone. He never left his house, his big mansion. But his parents were always going off wherever they felt like going and leaving him behind, because they, this was a long time ago. If he had started bleeding, he would have bled to death. And so he had all these rules that he couldn't leave the house. He couldn't do all these things. But he came into all of his parents' money. They went away and died on an accident, or in an accident rather. And he built this giant Mayan pyramid hotel. And it was a really big place for a long time. And he was an agoraphobic, so he never left the hotel his whole life. He never left his apartment, his hotel. He went straight from his parents' home into this hotel, and he never left it. And he lived in the penthouse suite on the top floor without windows or anything. But he was also a voyeur. He was very interested in what people were doing in their rooms. And he had the hotel built so that there were hidden passages and stairwells all around. And he would go and peep into these rooms and live vicariously through other people's lives. And so they get into this hotel, or rather, I'm getting ahead of myself. So the college professor has asked a journalist to join them. His name is Frank, and it's from Frank's point of view that we see this, from the very first meeting with these creepers in the hotel, in a different hotel, to going into this place through the sewers, and their explorations of this hotel. And everything is not as it seems. There is more going on here, and this book is very much like an onion. The layers keep getting peeled off as we go along. And this is not too much of a spoiler. I'll set up the plot and then leave the rest. They go into the hotel. It's very old. It has been closed down since the 70s, and there were big steel shutters put over all the windows, and the doors and everything were welded solid. And the only way they could get in was through the sewer. They had to go through the sewer. And so no one has been in this place for, at this point, I think this is from the early 2000s, so almost 25 years. And it is scheduled to be demolished. So they get into this hotel, and they are wandering around looking at everything. And they're going up the stairs, and one of the staircases collapses. The professor is injured pretty seriously. And about that time, they hear voices downstairs, and they have been followed in by a gang. And this plot is a little bit ridiculous. It is a little bit absurd, but it is fun. It's an enjoyable read. They are followed in by this gang who they are like punks, and they just happen to have night vision goggles, and the punks get the better of them and tie them up. And so, how much do I want to tell you? If you just don't want to hear it, just skip this part entirely. So, the man who ran the hotel, he had formed a friendship with a gangster. And around the time that I can't remember exactly what happened, but during the Depression, there used to be gold coins in circulation in just everyday people's hands. I mean, you could just go and to the bank, ask for $20 in gold, they'd give you a gold coin if you exchanged a bill for it. And I think during the Roosevelt administration, they did some legislation where they outlawed all those gold coins. And so a gangster had taken a bunch of gold coins and hidden them in a safe in his suite. And the punks have overheard them talking about this. And they forced them to go up to this suite and look for the safe. And when they open the safe, there aren't any, well, there are gold coins still in the safe, but there is also a filthy young woman in the safe who starts screaming about how they have to leave immediately because I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he's coming back. He's coming back. We have to leave right now. You don't understand. He's very dangerous. We have to leave right now. And it goes on from there. And, supposedly nobody has been in this building for 25 years. So they are they quickly come to realize that this person is in the hotel and is very dangerous. And I'm not going to give away any more than that. That is really just the setup for this book. And I just enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this. I would love to read more of David Morrell's books. And the guy, the cashier, he was right. It was good. It wasn't great. There are a lot of like setups that are very obvious. It goes in obvious ways. It feels very much like it was written for a film. And that's okay. That doesn't bother me really. I mean, a lot of books are written that way now, I think, and I think that if you had written a book like First Blood that became such a huge franchise, it would probably be very hard to get away from that mindset. There are some weird transitions in the book, like a chapter will end on a cliffhanger, and then it'll go to another chapter, and we're just suddenly introduced to brand new elements, which is a little bit odd, a little bit strangely done. I didn't always understand how we got from A to B several times throughout the book, but it didn't really take away from the book as a whole. So I'm a little bit forgiving of that.